HRA to order. Roll call.
Ballinger.
Here.
Brenmoen. Here. Jalali.
Here.
Naker.
Here.
Prince.
Here.
Tolbert.
Here.
Yang.
Here.
7 present, 0 absent. Item number 1, Resolution 22-1513, authorization to borrow funds from the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency and Ramsey County for improvements to the Midway residents. Authorization to execute necessary agreements with the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency and Ramsey County, and authorization to amend the project budget. District 12, Ward 4.
Director Goodman.
Thank you, Chair Tolbert. Commissioners, we have multiple items on the agenda today, and they're kind of a little bit more complicated than normal, so I'll read through the basics, and then I have staff here if you have additional questions. This item will authorize the borrowing of funds from the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency and Ramsey County, executing necessary agreements, and amending the budget for this project. The Midway Residence, as you know, is an HRA-owned 120-unit housing facility located at 902 Hersey in the St. Anthony Park neighborhood. The residence serves 120 people, 60 men with disabilities and 60 men suffering from chronic substance addiction. Many of these individuals were formerly unhoused. State general obligation bond funds were loaned by the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency to the HRA for construction of the project in 2007. The HRA owns the property because the state of Minnesota general obligation bond rules require public ownership. In 2006, the HRA entered into a long-term lease with Catholic Charities to operate and manage that Midway residence, which they continue to do. Since the construction of the project, a number of capital improvement needs have arisen and are required for the long-term operation of the building. As the owner, the HRA is responsible for and will implement the renovation of the Midway residence. This work will include replacement of the building envelope, a new roof, new boilers, and improvements to the bathrooms needed to increase safety for the aging resident population. Ramsey County and the MHFA are partnering with the HRA to help finance the renovation work. They're both making long-term deferred loans to the HRA for the project. In September of 2021, the HRA approved $500,000 of HRA rental rehab funds and accepted $1,784,000 loan from the MHFA and a $1,750,000 loan from Ramsey County, authorized execution of a new 10-year lease with Catholic Charities, and authorized staff to solicit contractor bids for the work. Since then, we did receive bids for the project. Meisinger Construction was selected. In May, Ramsey County awarded an additional $530,774 in funds to cover increased construction costs due to inflation and for the installation of security cameras. With the additional Ramsey County funding, the total Ramsey County loan to the HRA is $2,280,774. The total project cost is $5,606,230 and will be funded with the MHFA loan to the HRA, the Ramsey County loan, some existing HRA funds, and reserves. The MHFA loan will be deferred to the HRA with 30-year term at 0% interest, and we're working toward it closing this fall. The contractor will then order materials, and construction start in the spring. Construction is anticipated to be complete in the fall of 2023. Marie Franchette is here if you have any additional questions, and staff recommends approval of the item.
Great. Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions on this? Commissioner Jalali.
I just wanted to speak in support of the project. This is a building that is specifically also serving individuals formerly homeless, returning from homelessness, and creates a very needed type of housing at very accessible, low income levels that we are in dire need of. And I really just appreciate the mission behind the project and who it's serving. I'm very supportive and will be voting yes. I imagine other folks will too, but I wanted to speak to why I personally care about it as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with those sentiments. This is a really important residence in our attempt to address homelessness toolkit, and it's a very specific type of housing and important to the whole thing. Director Goodman, thank you for your work on this. I know your eye to detail has helped us preserve money, so thank you for that. Any other comments or questions? If not, I'll take that as a motion from Commissioner Jalali. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
6 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 2, Resolution 22-1514, approving the execution of a tax increment financing development agreement for a project located at 830 Cretin Avenue, the Lumen at Highland Bridge Project, District 15, Ward 3.
Director Goodman.
Thank you, Chair Tolbert. Commissioners, I believe Housing Director Tara Beard is here today to provide an actual presentation on this item.
Actually put it right in here, can't I? Sorry, I should have done this before.
I think it might be on the left side.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, apologies. I am prepared to give you this presentation, but I have to acknowledge that it was prepared by Diane Nordquist, the project manager on this, who has had an exposure to COVID, and so last minute wasn't able to be here. So I'm going to do my best. Is there a password? Yeah. Sorry. But that's also an opportunity to call out Diane's great work and thank her for that. And I also wanted to thank Melanie McMahon for all her help, given her, substantial role in projects that happen on the Hillcrest site, or Highland Bridge site, sorry. Okay. It went back. I'm sorry, Holly, it went back. Sorry. I don't know why. Thank you. Oh, it's right there. Okay, great. I think it's safe. View only. Start a slideshow. Great. Apologies, if I may. Okay, so the item in front of you is to approve a tax increment financing development agreement to provide tax increment financing, or TIF, assistance to the Lumen at Highland Bridge. And the Lumen is a 60-unit affordable rental housing project for seniors. It's the first affordable housing development on the Highland Bridge site. So brief background on the Ford site, which is one of the city's largest and most unique redevelopment opportunities located along the Mississippi River bluffs. The Ford Master Plan was approved in 2017, almost 10 years of city planning and community engagement meetings to design and guide the site for new development. In 2018, Ford Companies selected Ryan Companies as master developer of the 135-acre Ford redevelopment site. And soon after, Ryan Companies purchased the site from Ford and renamed it Highland Bridge and started implementing a vision for the master plan. Within the master plan, housing goals were established to provide a wide variety and mix of housing types at various affordable levels. The affordable goals seek to provide at least 20% of all housing units on the Highland Bridge site be affordable at a variety of income levels. And so you can see how the 20% splits amongst units affordable at 60%, 50%, and you can see the focus on creating new units affordable at 30% of area median income. The cost to provide deeply affordable units to housing, no surprise to you all, especially at rents as low that are affordable at 30% AMI, is incredibly difficult. These units require large amounts of subsidy, such as TIF. In 2016, the entire Ford site was approved as a large-scale redevelopment TIF district before it was platted and they were separate lots. And that allowed us to use the needed public financing to create some of the infrastructure and public amenities on the property. But to maximize the TIF as a potential subsidy source, when an affordable housing project is proposed, there's a market rate. If there is a market rate housing project underway, the HRA can pair those projects together in a new standalone TIF housing district. That allows the clock to reset of 25 years, lengthening the amount of funding that can be leveraged, and using the market rate projects, their tax increment, to help subsidize the affordable project further if needed. So Ryan Companies has estimated that at full build out, there will be at least 3,800 units of housing with a mix of single family, townhomes, rental, ownership, and senior housing. 20% of 3,800 is roughly 760 affordable units, and those are currently estimated to be achieved in the manner you see on the table before you. The Lumen, again, is the first project constructed which will start to meet those affordable housing goals. So we are actually really excited to kind of show you this table, every time we come to you with another deal for affordable housing on the Highland Bridge site and start to show how much we're continuing to achieve these goals and specific to those affordability levels. So Common Bond Communities was selected by Ryan Companies to be one of the affordable housing developers on the site. Project for Pride in Living and Habitat for Humanity also will develop future affordable housing projects. Common Bond is a very experienced nonprofit developer, and they specialize in deeply affordable and supportive housing. The Lumen will be located at 830 Cretin Avenue, just south of a newly constructed mixed-use housing development with a new Lunds & Byerly's grocery store on the first level. And as you are all probably aware, there are no shortage of amenities in the area. In terms of the project itself, it will consist of 60 units of senior rental housing for households 55 and older with incomes at or below 30% AMI. And the current 2020 annual 30% AMI, or area median income for a household of one person, is $24,660 for context. The developer, again, will be Common Bond Communities, and they're working with architect LHB and general contractor Ryan Companies. And some of the amenities of the project include community and wellness rooms on the first floor to help create kind of that active first floor space, bike and storage rooms, and a modest amount of surface and covered parking that is sited out of view behind the building. Of those 60 units, 48 will be one bedrooms and 12 will be two bedrooms. And you can see the fair market rents there and how greatly they differ from what's affordable at 30% AMI. Fair market rent is $1,130 for a one-bedroom unit, but the tenant will only be paying $616 because of project-based vouchers that we were able to blend into, or that we were able to receive from our partners at St. Paul Public Housing for this building. So when we said that it takes a lot of subsidy, it really does take a lot of subsidy. So you see a lot of resources here that have come together to make this possible. In June of 2021, a new housing TIF district was approved by the board to pair the Lumen with a market rate senior housing development that's currently being constructed by Presbyterian Homes. It was determined that the Lumen will require $5,351,000 in TIF assistance in the form as a pay-as-you-go TIF note. This amount does not use all of the TIF generated from this TIF district, and the balance can be available to help subsidize other affordable housing developments on the site, on the Highland Bridge site. In addition to TIF and the project-based Section 8 vouchers, other funding partners include a first mortgage through Minnesota Housing's tax-exempt housing bonds, which is paired with 4% low-income housing tax credits, a 0% deferred loan from Ramsey County, and Common Bond will be deferring a portion of their developer fee. That's all I have, and Meredith Skemp from Common Bond is also here if there are any questions.
Great. Thank you very much. This is an exciting day to see this. I just had a memory that we passed the Ford zoning in 2017, yesterday, September 27th, 2017 is when we passed the Ford zoning. So to get to this with the bold affordable housing challenges that we sought out then, and to get through this process is pretty exciting. And if people haven't been down to Highland Bridge yet, I suggest go down tomorrow. Lunds opens, and residents moved into the building that Lunds has on August 6th of last month, and this will be exciting. I know they want to hit the ground here pretty soon, so we're really excited to have this new affordable housing right in the heart of Highland Bridge and Highland Park. So any comments or questions? Thank you to the team. I think it's really important that we highlighted how difficult it is to finance some of this stuff and the really creative solution that PED housing team thought of years ago and continued to implement to make this happen. So thank you very much for your work. And I will have a motion to approve from, wait, is this a public hearing? No, it's not. All right. Any other comments or questions? If not, a motion to approve from Commissioner Jalali. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 3, Resolution 22-1515, approving and authorizing a temporary parking license agreement with Hope Community Academy to use a portion of a parking lot on HRA-owned property located at 694 Minnehaha Avenue East, District 4, Ward 7.
Director Goodman.
Thank you, Chair Tolbert. Commissioners, again, this item authorizes that temporary license agreement with Hope Community Academy, 80 parking spaces on the Hams Brewery site, which is 694 Minnehaha, until June 6th of next year as overflow parking for staff and teachers during the hours of 6 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. As you know, the site is currently home to a number of vacant buildings and a large surface parking lot, which is currently utilized by the privately owned St. Paul Brewery and 11 Wells Distillery, who operate adjacent to the HRA-owned properties. The 150-space surface parking lot is generally underutilized during the weekday. The Ham site has been recently marketed for redevelopment. We have an RFP that closed April 29th. The school is aware that any work related to development of the site per the RFP, including any general maintenance or site work, would be prioritized and could result in the termination of this agreement. The agreement has a 14-day written termination clause in the event the HRA can no longer accommodate the parking. The Hope Community Academy will indemnify the HRA as usual and the city for any liability. They will carry the required insurance. They will be responsible for maintaining the property and removing trash and snow. They do also pay us a monthly payment of $400 for the use of the spaces. Daniela Lorenz is here, a new employee in Economic Development, if you have any questions, and staff recommends approval of the item.
Great. Comments or questions? Commissioner Prince.
I'll just say that I'm really grateful to our PED staff for putting this license agreement together, which is just a very helpful thing while the site is not being developed. So thanks to everyone who made this happen on behalf of Hope Academy.
I'll take that as a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 4, Resolution 22-1516, approving modifications to the 2002 home loan to R.S. Eden, owner of 7th Landing, a 12-unit low-income rental property located at 1364 West 7th Street, District 9, Ward 2.
Director Goodman.
Thank you, Chair Tolbert and Commissioners. This item will approve several modifications to an existing loan to R.S. Eden, forgiving the accrued and unpaid interest charges on a home loan made in 2002 in the original principal amount of $387,000, extending the maturity date of that home loan for 5 years, modifying the interest rate from 2% to 0%, and making the loan forgivable at maturity, conditioned upon R.S. Eden's continued compliance with the low-income housing declaration. Again, this is a 12-unit permanent supportive housing building. The property houses and provides services to homeless young adults transitioning out of foster care. The project was built in 2002 with funding from Minnesota Housing Finance, Ramsey County, the HRA, the Federal Home Loan Bank, and HUD. It is encumbered by restrictive covenants, which runs with the land, and that declaration expires in December of 2027. R.S. Eden does intend to continue to operate the property as affordable housing, though, through and beyond that expiration date, and that will be required by the extension of the county loan for 20 years. So to ensure that extended affordability, we are recommending approving this loan extension upon the Ramsey County approval of their loan extension for 20 years. Jules Atanyana from PED is here if you have any other questions, and staff recommends approval of the item.
Great. Any comments or questions? All right. If not, a motion to approve from Commissioner Naker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted. Item number 5, Resolution 22-1517, authorizing a partial waiver of the substantial building ordinance and approving additional financing for the projects at 947 Sylvan Street and 964 Woodbridge Street, District 6, Wards 1 and 5.
Director Goodman.
Thank you, Chair Tolbert. Commissioners, this item authorizes additional expenditures and a partial waiver of certain requirements of the city's sustainable building ordinance for redevelopment projects at 947 Sylvan and 964 Woodbridge. These are part of the Inspiring Communities program. In July, this body revised the homeowner program manual and approved a maximum gross per unit subsidy of $200,000. We do have the St. Paul Administrative Code that has the sustainable building requirements, exempts renovation of under 10,000 square feet or anything receiving 200,000 or less in city funding. Almost all of our inspiring community projects to date have been exempt and have followed our own PED and HRA sustainability guidelines. These two projects in February of 2019, the HRA Board approved the sale of these two properties to the partnership between the Greater Frogtown Community Development Corporation and Greater Minnesota Housing, GMHC. I'm not positive I have that acronym correctly spelled out. The purchase price subsidy and the development gap subsidy at the time were less than they are now. As you all know, the costs have continued to rise, and we've learned that both of these properties have some costly issues. There's a utility connection issue on Sylvan and some soil issues on Woodbridge, and then just inflation. So the cost increases will be somewhat offset by higher sales prices. The estimated after improved market value still should be within reach for households with incomes at or below 120% of AMI. So what we're looking for now, the developer has requested a partial waiver of the requirements to Chapter 81, the sustainability requirements, in order to contain costs and avoid increased complexity. They have suggested canceling the projects if we're not able to do that. It's become too expensive. So staff does request approval of a spending authorization to account for those cost increases. After the increase, the total expenditures for the development subsidy, will be $280,805 for Sylvan and $264,310 for Woodbridge. Those development gaps will be structured as a deferred loan secured with a note and mortgage at 0% interest. Upon completion of construction to an eligible buyer, the loan will be forgiven. Nick Betcher is here from the housing team, and staff does recommend approval of the item.
Great, thank you. And I know we have a version 2, Commissioner Brummer.
I do, and I'm going to call this version 3 actually, because I know there's a version 2 that's not published, and I want to make sure that things aren't complicated. So just to reiterate some of what we heard from Director Goodman, this was approved 3 years and 7 months ago, and through a variety of reasons, it's only coming forward to us today. I was alerted to this issue earlier this year that the costs, of course, have gone up because of COVID, and so I support the increase in the waiver. But one of the ways that the developers proposed to bring the price down was to not build a garage and to install vinyl siding on the properties. And while it's acceptable to have a house without a garage, or my house has vinyl siding, the purpose of inspiring communities is to lift up in neighborhoods and to add value. And I believe that if we move forward with these just to get them done and skip out on the garage and skip out on the engineered wood, we're going to kind of continue to perpetuate the problem. One of the issues with homes in the north end as part of inspiring communities is that most of them were torn down. There were plenty of properties that remained up and renovated in other parts of the city, but they're smaller homes. They're made a lot of times with scrap material from the rail yards, and they were not able to remain standing during the housing recession. So we'll be building, if we move forward with this program as it currently is, which it may be time to really rethink it, with vacant lots, and sometimes small vacant lots in the north end. One of the things that we wanted to do is bring people with more income into neighborhoods with less income to help generate some spending power, et cetera. So my version 3 really was trying to figure out how to bring back the hardy plank siding and kind of willing to let go of the garage. And after talking to Chair Tolbert and Councilmember Bellinger, who is one of the two properties one's in Ward 1, one's in Ward 5, they're both in the north end, really believe that these properties will be sold to families that expect a garage as part of their home and also don't have the resources to put one up. There's a garage pad that won't be used if we don't go forward with this. So my version 3, and I'm really submitting this on behalf of both Councilmember Bellinger and I, is to increase the project by $37,000 for each of the projects. $7,000 to cover the cost of the improved siding, and $30,000 to cover the cost of a garage. So the version 3 that I have in Legistar says an increase of $139,769 for a total subsidy of $310,805 on the first project on Sylvan Street. The second one is $107,096 with a total subsidy of $301,310. And then an addition of an item 4 that says the HRA board hereby requires that for both projects, fiber cement or engineered wood siding such as Hardy or LP Smart Side and not vinyl be installed, and for both projects, a residential garage be installed. I will hand that amendment to the recording secretary for this item, but should it pass, but that would be my request of this board for these projects, with the caveat that those are large subsidies for new builds and for single-family homes in particular, and I'm wondering if we're at the point in the project. This was RFP 6, by the way, and we've approved 7 and 8 since then, just to show you how long it sat in Eddy. But is this the best value for our for affordable housing and for our community? And I think that it is probably time that we reevaluate inspiring communities. But I would submit this version 3 and would ask for your support.
Comments or questions? Commissioner Nager.
Thanks, Chair Tolbert. I'm going to vote in support of the motion. I really appreciate the way, Commissioner Brenmo, and you're thinking about not just getting this passed and getting it done, but also the end user and what they're going to want and what that means for the neighborhood. So I 100% support the motion, as well as your comments about the need to rethink how Inspiring Communities works. I've talked to Ms. Beard about this. I think before RFP 9, not in the process of RFP 9, but before we do another RFP, we need to figure this out. And I know I've suggested if we're going to be investing this much money, we should be looking at 2 units and 3 units and innovative types of combining housing on a parcel. It is a per unit subsidy rather than a per parcel subsidy, so we might not even be bumping up against our limits if we were talking about more housing, and then we'd be providing more housing. So I think there's lots of options, but I really am looking forward to that rethinking.
Commissioner Prince.
Yeah, I'm also inclined to support the amendment. We've had very similar Inspiring Communities projects in my ward that some of you may remember, where we actually raised the Inspiring Communities subsidy so that we could get those done. One question I do have, these were vacant lots that we purchased?
Chair Tolbert, Commissioner Prince, I don't know if they were vacant when we purchased them. They did have structures on them at some point, but as Commissioner Brinmo mentioned, they may have been made from scraps. I don't know if they were viable. At some point, they did have structures on them, but they are vacant now.
The reason I ask is because in terms of the development subsidy, back when I was dealing with some properties in my ward, we did calculate in the sunk costs. Mm-hmm. So in this case, we don't know what those are.
Chair Tolbert, Commissioner Prince, I brought all of these very questions up this week, and we don't have included in that, to my knowledge, the cost of if there were any cost of acquisition or demolition. That is not included.
I mean, in terms of looking at the policy, I think that's kind of if we should go forward with these, I think that's important information for us to have. But, and so in the future, at least, I would ask that we bring that forward, because that was very much a factor in dealing with some properties in Dayton's Bluff. But I will support the amendment. And I do agree that we probably need to, well, I'm going to support the amendment, and I'll support the property being done, these 2 being done.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Mr. Goodman? All right. A motion to approve from Commissioner Bremo. All those in favor say approve. We'll call it version 3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes as amended.
7 in favor, none opposed. The resolution is adopted as amended. Item number 6, resolution public hearing 22-296, approving and authorizing the sale and conveyance of a vacant lot under the St. Paul Housing and Redevelopment Authority's guidelines for disposition of a splinter parcel located at 473 Hatch Avenue in the North End, District 6, Ward 5.
Director Goodman.
Thank you, Chair Tolbert. Commissioners, this item is to convey a vacant HRA-owned splinter parcel at 473 Hatch to the adjacent property owner, which they will be combining with their property and fencing it as part of their yard. We've owned this lot since 2005. It's only 25 feet wide, which makes development challenging, and it's been a frequent site of illegal dumping. The HRA splinter parcel policy allows us to sell a splinter parcel to one or both adjacent property owners. At the time of staff review beginning in April, the other adjacent property was listed for sale and had outstanding code violations, both of which disqualify the owner of that parcel from buying the property under the provisions of the splinter parcel policy. The proposed buyers have been informed in writing that the property will be added to their tax parcel, which could result in an increase of their property taxes. This action is consistent with the HRA's mission to reduce blight and add property to the tax rolls, and staff recommends approval of the item.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody here to testify on the matter? Great. Nobody's here? Do you have any comments?
Just a quick comment. Appreciate Deputy Director Bustido's reach out to Ward 5. This is a parcel that initially they thought would be a potential site for an ADU or a tiny home. But this is also another part of the North End where I sometimes describe the homes as shark's teeth. They're so tightly packed together on 25-foot split parcels that there's barely room to stand between two homes. And so the person wanted to add some storage or put an above-ground pool, and the thought from Ward 5 was like, let's let this guy live his best life. This is not, trying to cram another house in an area where houses are literally touching each other doesn't necessarily add value to that neighborhood, even though it might add some housing. And we do plenty of housing in the neighborhood, and I'm really pleased that this person will be able to expand their yard, expand their arm reach between homes, and be able to add some value to that neighborhood. So I'm very supportive, and I would move to close the public hearing and approve.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? If not, we have a motion to close the public hearing and approve from Commissioner Brenwell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes.
7 in favor, none opposed. The public hearing is closed and the resolution is adopted.
And that brings us to the end. We are adjourned.